Oh. Today, we're talking swim baits, and we're talking little conventional finesse swim baits and those bigger swim baits as well. So there will be something in here for everybody, and we got a few things on the horizon, some baits coming out that I'm gonna talk about and things that are gonna happen this year. So stick around, it's gonna be a good one. What is going on, everybody? My name is Will. I love throwing around swim baits. I started off years ago with those smaller conventional finesse swim baits, and I've graduated into the bigger swim baits. It's just how it goes usually. Is you start off with something, you go bigger, bigger, bigger. Bigger is always better. Well, not all the time, but today we're just gonna have some fun. We are hanging out in the man cave. I was just in my tackle room looking at some things, getting ready for the season here. We are weeks away from getting on the water in Michigan. I can't wait. And I wanted to get this video out, just kind of talk to you guys about different baits that I recommend that I would throw, or baits that I would recommend to family and friends that I know if I send them out there on the water, or if I'm out on the water with them with these specific baits, that we're gonna put fish in the boat and we're gonna have a good time. So these aren't the most elusive, expensive swim baits, but I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks that maybe you haven't heard before, and I hope you guys pick up something from my videos or just enjoy hanging out with me for the night and talking about some different baits and having a good time. All right, while we're getting into this, talking about all of these confidence baits that will get you guys on fish that I know will catch fish, drop it in the comments right now. If you had to tell your mom or dad that have no fishing knowledge that they had to catch one fish for the day and you had to tell them one bait to use, what would that bait be? Drop it down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. All right, at number one, we're starting off with the Magdraft. So this holds a special place in my heart. This color right here, this Magdraft, one of these 6-inch harnessed pre-rigged Magdrafts, was my first soft swim bait, bigger 6-inch swim bait that I caught my first swim bait fish on probably about 3 years ago, and ever since I've been hooked. That's what started the whole swim bait addiction for me, all thanks to this guy right here. This is one of my favorite memories, definitely throwing swim baits. This pre-rigged Magdraft is something I'm going to recommend to everybody. Little quick note is they just re-released the 5-inch version, and it's gonna be fully updated and upgraded is what they say. Different harness, different hook. It's gonna be weighted a little bit differently, so you can actually fish it a little bit quicker and it will sink a little bit faster, which I think is going to be awesome, because if you want this to sink more, you have to add nail weights to this pre-rigged version because it is a super slow sink. You're going to be fishing this anywhere that is going to be more shallow, or if you are just fishing a big, broad, flat, and you're just trying to cover water, getting those casts in, and then just slow rolling it all the way back in. The big thing about the Magdraft is you need to figure out with your reel, because all reel gear ratios are different, what your speed is going to be to retrieve this. So toss it down in the water next to you, do a few slow reels, kind of see it moving next to the boat or the bank, how fast you need to get it to go for it to get that tail kick, and then get that head wobble as it's coming through the water. And then once you find that perfect speed, that's what you're gonna do. You're just gonna toss it out there and then get that perfect retrieve in and let it do its thing. You will draw in big fish. If you haven't used a Magdraft before, or any soft swim bait like this, these draw in fish and it shows you where those big ones are at. Even if they don't bite, you will see some big follows off of these baits, as with any big swim baits. But the Magdraft always seems, with that head wobble, to pull some good fish in. There is that eyelet on the top of the head, and then you have that hook harness with the hook, and it's hanging there. You take it, you either tuck it in the belly with that one shank so you have 2 hooks poking out, or if you want it to be a little bit more weedless, you can put it on that magnet, and then you have only 1 hook pointing out, so hopefully it pulls through grass a little bit easier. Now, with this treble hook being on the bottom, this is not going to be a bait that you can fish along the bottom, because you will get hung up. So they do have another option, that being the freestyle. So this is also that 6-inch, and then it is going to be the same exact bait, same exact mold, just without that harness in there and without the hook. So it's going to have a good belly cavity there, and then a nice little spot on the top for your hook to sit. This is going to be fished with a beast hook. That way you can fish a Magdraft deeper. It will drop faster with that weight on that hook, and you can kind of bump it off the bottom or swim it along the bottom without worrying about that treble catching on anything. And then kind of building upon that Magdraft there, I want to talk about this bait real quick. This is the Daingerous Swimbait by Bass Mafia, also a 6-inch, similar profile, also that soft plastic, but it is going to be that line through bait. So you're going to feed your line through the center of the body, you're going to attach it to your hook, and then once you tie that hook on, you pull that hook in and bury it down. It is nice and secure in that spot in the center of the body that they have hollowed out for it. That way when you catch a fish, you're going to hook it, the hook's going to pull out, the bait is going to slide up the line, and it's going to be harder for that fish to throw the bait, and it's also going to save your bait in the long run, so you will be able to catch more fish without worrying about tearing up that bait. It is going to be heavier than the Magdraft. This is going to be the 1.9 ounce, and then it also comes in a 1.6, I believe. That's going to be a little slower rate of fall. So this is going to be what I throw when I'm fishing deeper. I've caught fish on this year in 20 to 30 feet of water, rolling it along the bottom, and with that heavier weight, it stays down easier as you're swimming it across the bottom. I lost 2 of them, 20-pound test, straight fluoro, 2 massive pike just came up, took in the whole bait, and instantly grab the line, turn their head, and then if you fish up north here, you know you're done. That bait is gone. But another great option if you want to fish it deeper, you don't want to deal with the freestyle using a beast hook and screw lock and rigging it up yourself just straight out of the package. It comes with that hook, tie it on, you're good to go. Number 2, we're talking about the Bucca Baby Bullgill, and this is going to be the collaboration they did with Keitech a few years back. I actually received my first one of these ever in a mystery tackle box, and it was this one right here. This is an awesome little swim bait built by the man himself, Bucca. This is based off of his resin baits. They were trying to bring a consumer, more mass-produced bait to the market, and they came up with this ABS plastic little bullgill. This has caught me a ton of fish over the years. This is great when you're trying to throw a smaller presentation. They're just not biting on the bigger baits, and you want to catch some fish. Pull one of these out. You got the brush tail on the back. It's going to be a 3-joint bait, so you have a ton of movement through the water. It looks insane when it's swimming. One of the best looking little swim baits I've ever seen moving through the water, and it's going to be a slow sink. So this is just under 4 inches. It is 3/4 ounce, but with this little smaller profile, with that weight, it does seem to sink decently fast, so you can actually drop this down pretty quick. I usually throw this in place of, like, if you're a conventional guy, wherever you throw like a lipless. This is going to be great with that steady reel. So once again, low input. You can vary your reeling speed, so if you want to go fast and then slow it down a bit to try to get that fish to react, you can do that without worrying about blowing out this bait. I mean, I've reeled this bait in as fast as I can get my reel to go, and I've seen fish just run after it. Just recently got this pearl bone color, this crappie color, which is also awesome looking, and then this baby bass color. So all of these colors up here are gonna do amazing. I actually got sent these in a box of baits, which I'm super grateful for, super excited about. So once again, thank you, Mike, you're the man. All right, we are rolling through here. So let's go back to Megabass. All right, here we go. I just went and grabbed them. So this is the Dark Sleeper. I'm sure you've seen these. They've been out since 2017. I picked one up in 2019 for the first time. So this is an insanely popular bait up here in Michigan for the smallmouth, all through the Midwest and the East Coast. I'm sure you've heard of this. If you fish smallmouth, I'm sure you've fished it. But I found out back in the day that these are great for largemouth as well. This specific color, the Wakasagi in the 3-inch, and this is a 1/2 ounce, has done wonders for me over the years, catching me thousands of bass. And I've finally figured out the perfect way to fish these, and it's gonna be over ledges. And when I say ledges, any type of incline or drop off, because we don't have crazy ledges here in Michigan, but any kind of drop off, I pull one of these out, depending on what side of it I am on. If I am on the shallow side, I like to take this, throw it out there, wait for it to hit all the way to the bottom, wait 5 to 10 seconds, that's the key, because a lot of times you will get hit on that pause. And then if I don't get hit, I slowly start reeling, and then I'm dragging it right up that incline all the way up to the top. Sometimes I like to bounce it so it bounces up and comes back down. But a lot of times just on a simple like drag, so I'm reeling and I'm slowly dragging, reel that slack back in, slowly drag. So it's almost like I'm dragging a jig or a big worm or a shaky head or something like that, bringing it up that bank, and it gets bit. It catches big fish, it catches small fish too though. So that's why I like to recommend it. If you're wanting a day where you're just gonna lay into hundreds of fish, this is the bait to go with. A lot of guys up here are not throwing this on these inland lakes like what I fish a lot on, because it's mainly largemouth. Some of the lakes, a lot of them actually don't even have smallmouth, so people aren't throwing this bait. And as I'm sure you might know, when fish aren't seeing a bait in front of their face a ton or a lot over the years, something different is gonna get bit. This is that something different. I also like to fish it the opposite way, like I said, on that drop. If I can't get on the shallow side, if it's a steep drop off the shore, I will go on that deep side, throw it all the way up against the shore, because you don't have to worry about it getting hung up with that fin guard over the hook there. And I will just pull it back over the drop off and slowly let it come down. I don't want to reel it too quick because I don't want it to come up. I like keeping bottom contact with this bait. But on the flip side, you can also swim this bait. So technically it is labeled as a small swim bait, finesse swim bait. You can chuck and wind, and anybody who doesn't fish swim baits a ton or soft paddle tails, they can get away with this bait, because no matter what you do, it's doing something the right way. Because if it's hopping, reeling, dragging, or sitting there, fish love to eat it. Something I have noticed over the years though, and you may have heard this before, or if you've fished it, you've experienced it, the nose blowout with the hooks. So the weight comes right out of the nose there where that eyelet is, and there's just not enough reinforcement around that eye the way these are poured. So what I've learned is take a little bit of super glue or some epoxy, throw it over the nose straight out of the package before you even fish it, because a lot of times on that first cast you can get that nose blowout and it sucks. A brand new bait is just ruined. So use that on the eyelet, around the nose, and on the bottom a little bit, and it will hold up longer. The second thing to note is these tails, they do get bit off a lot by the toothy little bait fish up here, the perch especially. I've watched it happen so many times. They chase after this sucker as I'm reeling it in. Sometimes I try to go even faster, get it out of the water before they can get to the tail, but they get it and they just bite the tail right off. And then the last thing is these hook guards. They are pretty big fins on top, and it is a decently stout little hook, so you need to really set that hook. Use a medium heavy rod with a fast action, and don't be shy. Lay into these fish. Wait a couple seconds, count to 2 when you feel that bite on the bottom, like I said, when you're dragging it or waiting. Go 1, 2, reel down that slack, and lay into those fish. And then one thing to note real quick, this little bait right here is going to be a Goby style bait. This is from Hatch Match Baits. I saw this in an Instagram ad months ago when it was first being developed, and I saw some tests of it, and I thought, man, I used to fish the crap out of the dark sleeper. I wonder what's different about this. After talking to JP, the creator of this bait. He's an engineer by trade, so he fished the dark sleeper a lot. Noticed some of the same problems I was having, and he made these so he reinforced that hook eyelet around the nose and the weight so you're not getting as much blowout through the front. He changed the bait makeup of the plastic here to straight silicone, so it's going to be super stretchy, as you can see, and you're not going to have the ends bit off as much. Another thing with the dark sleepers, save that clamshell package, because that package is going to keep that tail straight and true when you're not using it. If not, if you leave the dark sleeper folded over ever so slightly in a tackle box, it's gonna be ruined forever. With this one, not a problem. He also has them available in a lighter wire hook. So if you're a smallmouth guy, or you're getting super finessey on some spinning gear, light line, you can use that finesse style hook, and then you don't have to set or crank into the fish as hard with those hook cover fins on there. But he did back off the thickness of the fins around the hook, so they are thinner, more malleable, so you can set that hook easier into fish. Like I said, with the dark sleeper, you really got to crack down. This one you don't have to. And then the last thing I've noticed as well is the eyes. He has painted right on the eyes. With the dark sleepers, usually on the first cast, those eyes are coming off. So another thing I forgot to mention on that is when you're super gluing the nose, super glue either over the eyes or just pull the eyes off and re-super glue them yourself with some stronger super glue. Try that out. Couple quick tips, but this coming from Hatch Match, something to keep an eye on. Follow him on Instagram. He's got some bigger variants of it coming out. There is going to be a 6-inch version as well. I have the prototype of that. I'm gonna show that in the next video, kind of talk about that a little bit, how I'm gonna fish it moving into this year. And while we're talking about things to keep an eye out for, the dark sleeper, they are doing a 4.5-inch version, so I'm excited to see how that turns out this year. They are coming out with different colors as well. I've seen some quick little clips on the 4.5-inch version. Looks a little interesting. Don't know if it was a prototype or the final bait. The body size of the mold actually looked very similar to the normal dark sleeper size of these smaller versions, and the tail just looked a little thicker and extended. So curious on how that's gonna fish, but I'm excited to try it out nevertheless. With my history and this bait, and then with the different colors that are coming out, will be fun to mess around with when I want to get finessey. All right, powering through. We are on number 4, and we're talking another finessey bait. Don't worry, next bait, last one, is going to be a bigger bait. So if you want that bigger bait, hold on tight for a second. I'm going to teach you how to catch another 100 fish in a day on technically a swim bait. Granted, it is a small finesse swim bait paddle tail, but this one right here, Keitech, make sure you get the fat swing. And then this is the 3/8. My favorite color right here is green pumpkin chartreuse. So you got that green pumpkin on this side, chartreuse on the back side. And this is another one of those confidence baits that when I was really into the finesse swim bait game, throwing those dark sleepers, I was throwing these as well when I wanted something a little bit bigger. I always pair these up with Dirty Jigs tackle, guppy heads, Matt Allen, Tim Little, Tactical Bassin. They came up with this head here. I'm sure you've seen it. Those guys are awesome. This is going to be my favorite color. This is the Tennessee Shad color, so it's a little white on the bottom. It's got that greenish brown color on the top, so nothing flashy. Keeping it simple. With the 3/8, I am going to be using a 1/4 ounce 3/0 guppy head. They just released at iCast a tungsten version. So if you are using live scope, that tungsten version will show up better with that live scope. When I'm fishing this bait, I'm fishing this in open water, covering water. I've caught a ton of big fish on this color right here. This color or the perch color, or if I want a bluer color, I go with the bluegill flash. This is the 2/8 version. In that bluegill flash, it has that dark navy blue on one side, and then it has the gray lighter belly on the other side. With this one, I'm fishing the 1/0 guppy head hook and those are gonna be an 1/8 ounce. So this is super finessey. One thing to note about the Keitechs is they are that softer plastic, so you will blow through a pack of these pretty quickly. So just be prepared for that. You're sacrificing durability for the action of this bait. That's what these are known for. They're a staple up here by Lake St. Clair. They're littered through tackle shops all along the entire length of the store, every single color, every single size they offer. And that's just simply because they work. They catch fish, the action is unreal, but you sacrifice that durability. So if I'm noticing I'm blowing through a lot of these, this past year, I picked up the Rapala Crush City Mayor. This came out last season. I grabbed these because they are that more elastec material, stretchier material. They're more durable, so when I am blowing through Keitechs, I'm getting perch biting off the tails, like I said with the Dark Sleeper. I am pulling out the Mayor. That way I know I will get at least a few fish or a few casts before I'm putting on a new one and worrying about changing that bait out. The way I would fish this is my cover water small finesse swim bait. And what I would do is I would cast it out, just bomb and cast in a big circle around the boat when I'm in deeper water. I would let it swim down however much the depth was. I'd stop it at the bottom and then slowly reel it in until I got back to the boat. I would try to keep my tip of my rod down, just trying to keep it swimming a little bit more straight. Didn't want to pull it up too much, so keeping it straight. It also gets hit a ton on the fall as well, just like the Dark Sleeper. This paired up with that 1/4 ounce 3/0 guppy head, the fall rate is just perfect. With the weight of the 3/8 and that 1/4 ounce, it swims down so subtly, but it still has that big kick that the Keitechs are known for. It just draws bass in, they come over, check it out, and bite it before it hits the bottom. Test this one out if you haven't tried it. You want to get some fish, this is what I recommend. And next up, 5th bait we're talking about that just flat out catches fish for me is this one right here, Throwback Baits Flea Shad. This is gonna be one of their Gill color patterns. They have so many custom paint options that they've dropped over the years. Keep an eye out, follow them on Instagram, watch for their drops. But this color here has been amazing for me up north with all of these gills that these bass are chasing around up here. This bait with this color, I think it's just a match made in heaven, literally, for me, because of how tall this profile is and then how thick it is. With that subtle swim, all you have to do is cast it out and reel it in. You can change up the tempo of how fast you're reeling it in, but that kick is always gonna be that subtle action, so it does look like a fish. You know, a lot of times the fish, they don't have a crazy kick, so you don't need that big kick. This mimics a bait fish so well that I've had some of the biggest blow-ups I've ever had on any bait, not just bigger swim baits, any bait in general. The biggest blow-ups I've had have been on this, and I think it's because it looks so subtle coming across the top that when fish see it out of the corner of their eye, yeah, it might not have that big swinging tail to have more drawing power or give off vibrations, but when fish do see this, they just run after it and blow up on it. They crush it. They think, wow, there's a bait fish swimming through the water, lost its school, it's on its own. I better get up there and hit it before it gets away, and this is my only chance to get after it. Subtle enough to not give off any warning signs to those fish that may have seen bigger baits flopping around through the water. This one does the trick. Catches you some good fish. All right, to wrap it up, thanks for sticking around. You guys get a little sneak peek of what's coming here on the horizon, moving into the open water season. After we get out of winter here, got some baits. We got the BC. This is the Gill, awesome color pattern on that. We'll be tossing that around. We have a burrito Gill. Can't wait to throw this in this crappie color pattern. Of course, you know, I did a video on the Mulletron. This is the new Shadtron. I got the biggest version they had because you know me. We got the working class 0. This is one of the special hookup tackle colors. We got a bunch of trick shads, bunch of different color patterns here to try out. I think I have every single color, so we'll be throwing those around, testing out what works in different water, different scenarios. Drop a comment down below. I want to hear one bait. If you had to go out and catch a fish, one swim bait, what's it gonna be? Drop it down. See you on the next one.